Backdrop 15. More at townhall.com.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks bounced back from steep early losses to end mixed, continuing their wild swings amid uncertainty about what President Trump's trade war will do to the economy. The S&P 500 rose 0.1%, extending its winning streak to a seventh day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.3%, and the NASDAQ Composite slipped 0.1%. Indexes started the day lower after reports suggested the U.S. economy may have shrunk at the start of the year before most of the president's announced tariffs could take effect. The S&P 500 had been down as much as 2.3%. The Dow finished up 141 points today to close at 40,669. The NASDAQ lost 15 to 17,446. The S&P 500 gained 8 points to 5569. With the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. The evening low dipping to 62. Tomorrow, much like today, a blend of sunshine and some clouds to go with a high temperature of 88. On Friday, we get more clouds than sunshine. A slight 20% chance we get some late afternoon storm activity. Look for more storms on Saturday, maybe even into early Sunday. Much nicer Sunday after lunchtime. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All righty, welcome into Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network on this Wednesday night. Great to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and the plumber Josh Cohen. Our phone number, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. And you can shoot us a text message as well. Text message line is 803-900-4847. In fact, I've been negligent. We got a bunch of text messages in there. I've been negligent by not reading those. So one of my goals tonight, amongst everything else, will be to get to those text messages. You can also, if you feel like talking, but not on the air, you can call into that same number and leave a voice message that we will air if it's decent. The plumber will check that out and grade as to whether or not it is decent. So, big show for you tonight. Last show for Bergie for a little while. Where are you going?
On vacation.
Hitting the road.
Hitting the road.
You want to say where you're going, or is that top secret?
No, I'll just, you know where I'm headed. Josh knows, and that's enough. But we are going on vacation, family vacation with my wife's family. So looking forward to that. So, headed out of here tomorrow and be gone all next week.
Oh, well, that's just dandy. And so who's replacing you?
That would be Josh. He just found this out.
We're doomed. We're
I think
doomed.
Josh would be a good replacement, good fill-in.
We're doomed. Okay, tonight coming up on the program, a lot of things to dive into. We're going to get to some of the stories of the day coming up here just a little bit. We're going to hear tonight from Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich, an interview I did about a half hour ago. They're practicing during the time we're on the air, so we had to pre-record the interview. But some good stuff with him, talking about the lost weekend at NC State, the weekend coming up with Florida State and the state of his team, coming off their first really bad weekend of the season. Their only really bad weekend of the season thus far. 7:05. We're expecting 7:05. It might be a little later depending on if he finishes up his dinner in time. But Tim Beret, longtime friend of Sports Talk as the sports information director of Clemson, now going into the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame. Looking forward to talking to Tim about his outstanding career at Clemson and what it means for him. You know, it's interesting, Bergie. This will never happen to me. It might happen to you. But, I mean, to be inducted into an Athletic Hall of Fame for reasons beyond your athleticism, it's kind of interesting. You know, you're going into the hall where the people, the greats of your particular school, you know, the sweat and the blood and the tears that they went through, and you're going in because of the assistance that you gave them, in his case, for over 4 decades. So it's kind of interesting. He'll join Bob Bradley in that capacity there at Clemson. A great honor for Tim, so I'm looking forward to talking with him.
Absolutely. And if there is a sports information Hall of Fame, a national one, Tim's in there. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, yeah, I think it's awesome that Clemson is enshrining him. And you're right. I mean, he never played a down. He never swung at a pitch. He never shot a basketball. But, boy, he's been when you think of Clemson athletics, it does not take long after you start reeling off names like Danny Ford and Dabo Sweeney and, Brad Brownell. It doesn't take long, though, before you start mentioning the name Tim Beret, because the publicity that Clemson has gotten over the last 4 decades, not all because of him, but a good bit because of him.
Well, let's be honest. We're all human, right? And all humans have their weaknesses, and you can touch all humans in certain ways. And there's a reason why over 40-plus years I've been around, and even longer than that, but there's a reason why media people around the state, around the Southeast, around the country have always spoken highly of Clemson. And you can trace it back to Bob Bradley and Tim Beret.
Yep.
Because they treated the media with such respect, and they treated the media like friends and family. I'm not saying that they kissed up to him, and when they had to go nose to nose with somebody over something, they certainly did. But I'm just saying that the way they treated the media over all those years, going back to Mr. Bradley, you're a human, and so you remember that. And does it influence your thinking? I mean, as a journalist, as a reporter, you're supposed to be, of course, still blind to that kind of stuff. But deep down in your subconscious, you might have a little bit of a benefit of a doubt for Clemson in their favor because of how you were treated. Whether you were only there once every couple of years for a football game, I just know that people outside the state, outside the region, who would come to Clemson to cover football games, basketball games, whatever, they were always blown away by how kind and how well they were treated by the sports information staff at that time.
Well, and they set the standard. I mean, they really do. If you want to have sort of a model as to what you do in sports information, this is old school sports information, what you and I grew up on, Phil, what we know in that SID department. It's different now because a lot of them are athletic communications. A lot of them are more social media oriented. But Tim Beret sort of set the standard, along with, as you pointed out, his predecessor, Bob Bradley, who taught him everything he knows. I'm sure that's what Tim is going to say. But they set the standard, and the bar was pretty high. Dabo talks a lot about the best is the standard. It's hard to be better than what Clemson is in its sports information office, and Ross and those guys that are currently involved in that are keeping and maintaining that standard. And one thing I've always admired about Tim, not only was he able to be really good at sports info, he's a darn good basketball analyst too. And a lot of this stuff is because he remembers games. He can remember, when Clemson and North Carolina played back in 1984 in Chapel Hill and what happened. It's very useful in his basketball broadcast as well.
Absolutely. He does a great job. Football.
I think so.
He works with the football. He works with the basketball. And when necessary, he'll step in and help out with the baseball. Plus, of course, he's worked with NBC many, many years up in the tower. I think he's been in the 15th tower, 15th or 16th with Peter Jacobson for many, many years. Not sure that's still going on, but working with NBC on their golf coverage. All right, a couple of other things to touch on. 888-898-2525, the number. I got really three things on my mind right now from today. Maybe four. 3 or 4 things on my mind from today. No particular order. Ian Shefflin going to play football for Clemson. I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to spell his name again, but now he's back, and he's going to play football for Clemson, so now I'll have to use Google to keep checking my spelling of his name. How do you think he'll be as a tight end? I mean, I know he's rough and tumble on the hardwood, and he's a big-bodied kid. He hasn't played football in a long, long time, but kind of reminds me of that former Miami basketball player who went on to the NFL and had a great career, Jimmy. Why is it not coming to me? It'll come to me. But what do you think about this move for him?
Well, it's obvious that, first off, he loves Clemson and does not want to leave. And my question to answer your direct question, I don't know how successful he's going to be as a tight end. He evidently was a really good one in high school, but he stopped playing his 10th grade year. So he's been away from football for 6-7 years. Now, evidently, when he was growing up, he had people telling him he needed to stay with football because he would do pretty well. He's clearly made the right decision, I think, in sticking with basketball and turned into an outstanding power forward for Clemson on the basketball floor. But I just think that's a lot to ask. And he's going into a program that this upcoming season anticipates and expects to be contending for a national championship. Mm-hmm. How much can he contribute to that at the tight end position? I don't know. I feel pretty confident he's not going to be Jake Brenningstool, right?
I would think not. I would think you'd look for him to be more like a rock of granite out there. Just go knock somebody over, you know. I don't expect him to be a hybrid tight end. By the way, Larry Williams of Tiger Illustrated broke that story. Is all over that story, as always, up there at Clemson. I would expect him to be more like a rock of granite out there. Speaking of that, let's shift gears and talk about the big sports business news today, and that is that On3, the company On3 has acquired from Yahoo Sports Rivals. So On3 is taking over Rivals. Yahoo Sports will still have some involvement from a business standpoint, but On3 and Rivals are merging. It's funny, what goes around comes around. Shannon Terry, who runs On3, is the owner, whatever his title happens to be. He's a genius. My title for him is freaking genius, because everything the guy has touched has pretty much turned to gold, because he started the original Rivals back in the late 90s and sold it off, started 24/7, sold it off, and started On3. So he's been very successful everywhere he has gone with this online sports concept. So On3 is taking over Rivals. And the way I understand it, from reading the stories about it, On3 is going to focus its content on the teams and covering the teams at schools and all the behind-the-scenes stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Rivals is going to be the recruiting wing of that. So the recruiting stories, if I'm understanding this correctly, will basically be on Rivals, and the team stories, game stories, feature stories will be in the On3 category. And so what that's going to mean for people, I don't know yet. I reached out to Larry, and I said, what does this mean? Do you stay at Tiger? Tiger Illustrated is a Rivals property. Does Tiger Illustrated now fall under the umbrella of On3? Does Paul Strelo write for Tiger Illustrated? Does Larry have to go to the On3 Clemson site? I mean, there's a lot of these things that still have to be, I guess, resolved for the people who work for those companies. But that's a massive sports media property acquisition by On3 to take over Rivals. And so what it also does, of course, is it eliminates a rival, so to speak. You buy up one of your rival companies, and now it's just them and 24/7. And 24/7 is owned by CBS, so they got plenty of financial backing and plenty of talent and plenty of writers. And now On3. And what's interesting is, Chris, if you follow all this stuff like I do, a lot of people who used to work for rivals went to work for On3. When On3 came online, they must have had a ton of financial backing, and they hired a bunch of writers from rivals and from 24/7. I guess they, paid them big money. They made the move over to On3. Now On3 is taking over the rivals brand. So we'll see how all that works out here in the future.
Sounds like you'll be a much, much better resource to answer this question than I am, because I don't follow recruiting anywhere close to the way you do. But in terms of eliminating competition, as you pointed out, is that actually good in the recruiting space? I mean, is it going to be more difficult now? And is the only place that we're going to see, commitments live now, or commitments through social media, is at On3? I mean, are they going to suck the air out of the room, if you will, by eliminating one of their top rivals and basically just taking out any competition outside of your stuff that we provide for free here on Sports Talk? I mean, where else is anybody going to go to find recruiting info anymore?
Well, I mean, you can't compare. I mean, be quite honest, you can't compare what they do to what I try to do. I mean, they're 50 times more involved in it than I am, simply because of the volume of the people they have and what they try to cover. We try to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't care what happens. Somebody is committed to Iowa. We're not really all that concerned.
Right. So to answer your question, now remember, the way I understand it, the recruiting stuff's going to be under the Rivals brand, and On3 is going to be. There's still going to be separate entities as far as their online reporting coverage. Online still. I mean, On3 still going to be here, and Rivals is still going to be here. But Rivals, according to what I've read, will be where they place their recruiting stuff, and On3 is going to be where they place their stories about teams. The feature stories or game stories or breaking news stories about respective teams will be on On3, the way I understand it. Will there be any crossover? We'll have to wait and see. Meantime, you still have the other outlet now becomes 24/7, which is owned by CBS, and in 24/7 they've got everything under one roof, and they're still doing their recruiting and their game coverage and their feature story all under the name of 24/7. So it's really going to be two companies competing with one another now for the college scene, for the college space on the internet, until somebody starts another one, But that's kind of how it's shaking down now after this movement today. All right, and let's see, what else did I want to talk about? They today they unveiled the Dawn Staley statue downtown Columbia, right there at they actually did not place it where they originally talked about, on Main Street, right there at the State House. Main and Assembly, I think, was the original spot. They ended up putting it over by the Alumni Center, a little closer to campus. I think it's probably a better fit there. So Dawn Staley now has a statue. Asia Wilson has a statue. That's two statues to the USC women's basketball program. Just saying that, powers that be at South Carolina love to show reverence to their women's basketball program. And, I mean, it's been a very successful basketball program, no doubt about it. But are you going a little bit overboard at this point in time with two statues, one of a player, one of your coach? No statues
now,
to your.
Is the Dawn?
No, I'm not.
Is the Dawn?
I was just going to say. I mean, no statues to your baseball program. And what is it about statues at South Carolina, at the University of South Carolina? Why are they so hung up on statues? You got a statue of George Rogers. He's still living, by the way. You got a statue of Aja Wilson. She's certainly still living. You got a statue of Dawn Staley. She's still living. Statues used to be for the dead, from what I understood. Just because sometimes you put up a statue of somebody and you got to take it down for, reasons. So we hope that doesn't become the case here. But my point is, I know the city of Columbia was involved in this as well.
That was going to be my question. How much
Yeah.
did USC have to do with this versus how much the city of Columbia wanted to honor Dawn Staley?
Yeah.
And the statue, by the way, I'm not sure they could have picked a better pose. It's basically, if you have not seen it, it's her climbing up a ladder to cut down the nets at a national championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I think is very fitting.
Yeah. Listen, they've done great. They've done great. But, where's Curtis? Where is Coach Fry's statue? He won a national championship with women's track and field way back. I mean,
does Ray Tanner get one?
Where's
He's
Ray
got a pair
Tanner's
of
statue?
national championships in his back pocket.
I'm just saying they've really bent over backwards here for women's basketball at South Carolina for whatever reason. You'll have to figure that out on your own. I don't know. I'm just saying they've really bent over backwards. Let's see what else. It was,
was Jimmy Graham, by the way?
Jimmy Graham,
the player you were thinking of.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham. And then, of course, the gift that keeps on giving is Bill Belichick. And he put – we'll have to go to
I never
break.
thought I'd get tired of this story, but I'm ready for it to go away now.
Well, I mean, come on. It's it's a train wreck happening before your very eyes.
It's very true.
And I mean, it just won't – he tried to put out a statement today. And, of course, that statement's being mocked universally by people. Through the university, North Carolina released a statement from Belichick trying to explain why his girlfriend's in charge of his life, or at least in terms of his promotional campaign. We'll be right back.
Are you in the market for an auto loan? Move now. Get an auto loan from Founders Federal Credit Union now through October 31st, and you'll be entered to win up to $25,000 toward your qualifying auto loan and a $5,000 deposit into your Loyalty Select account. Loyalty Select is our highest yield savings account. Leave it there to grow or transfer it out to spend. And the best part? We'll be choosing monthly winners. So the earlier you get your auto loan, the more chances you have to win. So don't wait. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto to learn more or begin your auto loan application today. Not a Founders member yet? Visit us online or stop by an office to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. We have the financial tools you'll need and the personalized service you deserve. Relax, you're with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Membership qualification required.
Stay tuned. More Sports Talk is coming up on the Sports Talk Media Network.
George Bryan here with Tsunami Bar Sports and some great spring golf news. If you're ready to mash your tater, I think you need a Laginator. And if you want to get more speed and crack the whip, it's time for a mini stick. So TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 to get 10% off the Laginator and the mini stick. That's TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 for 10% off.
All right, so from Bill Belichick, he said, quote, "I agreed to speak with CBS Sunday morning to promote my new book. Prior to this interview, I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews I participated in would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, that expectation was not honored during the interview. I was surprised when unrelated topics were introduced, and I repeatedly expressed to the reporter and the producers that I preferred to keep the conversation centered on the book. After this occurred several times, my sweetie Jordan," I added the part about my sweetie, Jordan, with whom I share both a personal and professional relationship, stepped in to reiterate that point to help refocus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question or topic, but simply doing her job to ensure the interview stayed on track. Some of the clips make it appear as though we were avoiding the question of how we met. We have been open about that fact, that Jordan and I met on a flight in the bathroom. No, I'm sorry, I added that part. On a flight to Palm Beach in 2021. Of course, now, editorial comment here, let's don't put it past CBS to edit interviews, correct, Bergie?
Oh, do it all the
time. He said, continuing, the final 8-minute segment does not reflect the productive 35-minute conversation we had, which covered a wide range of topics related to my career. Instead, it presents selectively edited clips and stills from just a few minutes of the interview to suggest a false narrative that Jordan was attempting to control the conversation, which is simply not true, end quote, from Bill Belichick. And, of course, the national pundits took off on that thing and ran with it all afternoon long. And, that it serves no purpose for him to even try to comment on this thing. It is what it is, and people can see what they want to see. And word coming out from around Chapel Hill is that it's not going over really well there in Chapel Hill. He better win a lot of football games. He better win a lot of football games to get people back on his side, to get them over this. You think there's been a change with Ian Shefflin since we just talked about it? Oh, we lost Bergie. That was a dropout. Bergie was telling me during the break that he saw where it had been posted by John Blau because Ian Shefflin had posted on his Instagram, I guess, or maybe on his X, a picture of him from his football days, Bergie. But now you're saying there might be a change?
Yeah, according to John Blau, about 2 hours ago, Shefflin took that picture off. He still has the big banner ad, if you will, or banner picture that everybody has on X right up at the top, but the little smaller circle one is blank. And the banner picture is the chefs, the fans who come out to support him in the background. But, yeah, it's odd. I can't imagine this story would have been broken and then Shefflin have a change of heart. But I don't know if that means anything, but there you go.
Wow. Well, those of us who live by graphics on X die by graphics on X.
No
I mean, if that's how
he may be looking for a better football picture of himself.
I mean, if we're drawing conclusions based on that, then, we're all going to eventually lose. One more note here. This from The Athletic on our friend and your friend Jordan Hudson. They write that she played an instrumental role in stopping the production of North Carolina's feature on HBO's Hard Knocks, according to multiple sources. So she got a lot of power around him determining who and who is not going to get their opportunity to do feature stuff on him. But if you're North Carolina, that was a golden opportunity to show everything off. Back in just a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. The evening low dipping to 62. Tomorrow, much like today, a blend of sunshine and some clouds to go with a high temperature of 88. On Friday, we get more clouds than sunshine. A slight 20% chance we get some late afternoon storm activity. Look for more storms on Saturday, maybe even into early Sunday. Much nicer Sunday after lunchtime. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
If you step onto H&J Cattle's farm, you'll find third-generation farmers upholding the legacy. They embrace sustainability and take immense pride in their craft, raising cattle purely on nature's offerings, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. The result? Unmatched quality beef that's not just good, it's the best in South Carolina. Experience the distinct flavor of our finest registered Hereford and Wagyu beef. Visit us online at HandJCattle.com or on Instagram and Facebook at H&J Cattle.
This is an SRN News special report. Ukraine and the U.S. have a deal. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The U.S. and Ukraine announced on Wednesday an economic deal after a weeks-long press by President Donald Trump calling on Ukraine to compensate Washington for billions in military and economic assistance to help Ukraine repel the Russian invasion. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in a video posted to X that this partnership allows the United States to invest alongside Ukraine to unlock Ukraine's growth assets, mobilize American talent, capital, and governance standards that will improve Ukraine's investment climate and accelerate Ukraine's economic recovery. Ukraine's economy minister confirmed to the Associated Press that a deal had been signed in Washington in a post on X. This has been an SRN News special report. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
Hey, it's Kev. I'm hanging out with Ken, the owner of Broker Solar, a local company. Now, Ken, I know you have some solar pet peeves. These national guys, they're just not very honest.
One of the common myths in the solar industry is that you can get solar for free or some kind of government-paid solar, and that's simply not the truth. But what you can get is a solid investment that has tax credits that will pay you back for years to come. That's one of the things that we promote at Broker Solar is proper education in what solar is and how you can take advantage of the incentives that are out there, local and federal.
Tell me more about these tax credits.
There's currently a huge federal tax credit that gets you a third of the system cost back. And on top of that, the state of South Carolina, we're lucky enough to have an extra 25% of that solar system cost come back to you in the form of tax credits, totaling for a 55% discount on your solar system back in tax credits.
Call Broker Solar. Call them now, 803-807-7417 or online, brokersolar.com.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing the Wing and a Prayer Wednesday special. Purchase an order of wings and a drink and get a free gift card for the arcade. We have some of the most mouth-watering jumbo wings like flamethrower hot wings, barbecue wings, teriyaki wings, honey mustard wings, terry hot wings. You can get a half dozen for $9.95 or a dozen for $18.95. Served with celery and choice of dressing. So come join us at Flight Deck Restaurant to enjoy some great jumbo wings and lots of fun in our new and improved arcade. And we at Flight Deck Restaurant thank y'all and God bless.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life with Spa MD, your sanctuary of rejuvenation. Feel the tension melt away as our expert team guides you through your customized wellness journey. From soothing massages to revitalizing treatments, we promise a remarkable experience that leaves you feeling renewed and empowered. Discover the calm within every visit. Reach out at 251-9400 or online at visitspamd.com to explore your options. Your oasis of tranquility awaits.
Experience South Carolina's printing powerhouse. Professional Printers is your trusted partner, bringing over 30 years of expertise in print and graphics. From digital printing to web and sheet-fed solutions, we handle it all with a team of over 100 dedicated professionals. Locally owned and operated, we have 2 locations in the Midlands and serve our customers with pride, ensuring top-notch service and quality in every project. We do it all, including storage and promotional products. Visit proprinters.com and elevate your printing experience with us.
At 6, don't miss the vibe. South Carolina's pride, we're live. Sports Talk's the place to be. From the court to the field, we're breaking news free. Join the team, follow X for more. We're taking over, that's for sure. Corn's insight, Bergen's wit, Cohen's energy. They're the perfect fit. 2 hours of sports talk bliss. Don't miss a minute of this. Sports Talk.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk. Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and the plumber, Josh Cohen. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number for you here on Sports Talk. Braves won again today. The Braves, all of a sudden, they have become red hot. Of course, they beat the worst team in baseball. Boy, Colorado, really, really bad. Doesn't matter. It's a W as far as the Braves are concerned. They'll take it. So they win again, finish off a 5-1. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was about to say they lost today.
Wait a minute. I thought they won.
Rockies 2-1.
I thought they won.
No, sir.
I went through all of that. You're right. They lost 2-1. I was looking at something. I could have sworn I saw something that said they had won to finish off a great road trip. So my apologies. I hadn't looked at the score. My apologies. They lost 2-1. How'd they lose?
I have no idea.
I got it right here. The Rockies ended their 8-game losing streak. Brenton Doyle hit a tie-breaking homer off Chris Sale in the third of a 2-1 win over the Braves. Okay, my bad. Braves lost. Braves lost 2-1. They're still playing some pretty good baseball after their terrible start. Also this afternoon, Angels and Mariners are 3-3 in the 7th. It's San Diego over San Francisco 5-2 in the 7th. And St. Louis shut out Cincinnati 6-0. Detroit beat Houston 7-4. Dodgers over Miami 12-7. Minnesota, Cleveland, they are scoreless. Yankees and Baltimore scoreless. They're just getting underway in their games. So there you go with the baseball. We've got some college baseball tonight as well. We'll check on that. Was it South Carolina game last night? Picked it up about the 6th inning when I got out there. It was a 1-0 game. Gamecocks ended up winning that game with 4 in the 7th. They ended up winning it over Charleston Southern 5-3. But and of course the injury situation, we'll get more from Paul Maneri tomorrow when we meet with him. But they were down Nathan Hall last night and Ethan Petrie, and it sounds like Petrie could be done for the season based on what Maneri was saying. But the other thing, Bergie, was now I know I got there around the 6th inning or so, and some people were walking out of a 1-0 ball game on a beautiful night in the 6th inning. There was nobody there. I don't know what was there early on. When I say nobody, I mean literally nobody there in an 8,400 seat 8,400 seat ballpark. They got to do a lot to win this fan base back, and it looks like it's gone for this year.
Yeah, well, they've checked out a long time ago because of how poorly the team has been playing. But, yeah, and that's – Paul Maneri's got to fix the roster. We've talked about that, and I think Jim Toman did a nice job breaking it down. They just don't have the talent to contend, and he actually self-admittedly, not Toman, but Paul Maneri said earlier this week that he underestimated how good the SEC is. Well, he's found out the hard way, and he's got to fix that. They announced, Phil, and it wasn't a situation because I had the game on television in here, and you could see there was hardly anybody there. They announced 6,800. Now, if there were 6,800 people there, judging by what I saw and what you saw, they must have been counting the people that drove by on the street throughout the game, too, because it's not even close. That obviously was tickets they had sold a long time ago. And Gamecock fans have just checked out. I don't think they care. The next thing that's on their mind right now is the start of fall camp for football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. South Carolina men's golf team got an invite to the NCAA tournament today, and the Furman team did as well, and the Coastal Carolina team did as well. Clemson did not, but they did have an individual who was picked for the tournament. So as far as South Carolina is concerned, the Gamecocks will be the number 4 seed in the Bremerton Regional. Bremerton is that Washington?
It's a great question.
Bremerton, Washington. Yeah, the Gold Mountain Golf Club. Washington will be the host. South Carolina will be the number 20 seed. The number 4 seed. They're ranked 20th. They'll be the number 4 seed behind Arizona State, Florida, and Utah. And Coastal Carolina is also going out there as the number 12 seed. So Coastal and South Carolina heading out to the same regional. And then Furman was also selected. Furman is going to be the number 11 seed in the Tallahassee regional with Ole Miss and Florida State, your top 2 seeds. Furman will be your number 11 seed in that one. And then as far as Clemson is concerned, again, the Tigers, who made it to the semifinals of match play in the ACC tournament but did not make the tournament field, and it will be Andrew Swanson making it as an individual. He's going to play at the regional in Amherst, Virginia. So there you go with that. Also today, and George Bryan will be joining us a little bit later on, the local qualifying for the U.S. Open taking place today at Salina Golf Club. I couldn't make it. I had planned to participate, but I overslept my tee time.
You missed your tee time?
I missed my tee time. I told them, I said, if you set my tee time before 11, I'm not going to make it. And so they did, and I couldn't make it. So we'll find out from George how it went out there at that beautiful golf course. Let me hit a few of these text messages, then phone calls coming up. Roger from Woodruff, referring to the South Carolina-Kentucky baseball series. Is anybody else tired of Nick Mingione's annex at Kentucky? They won the series. I'll give them that. But the way that guy coaches is a joke. He's nothing but an instigator. Like Stuart Lake said on one of the broadcasts, what he does is not SEC baseball, my 2 cents. Did you see anything along those lines?
I did not. I didn't watch the series. I was busy on Saturday. But, unless he's changed considerably, he can't touch Tony Vitello at Tennessee. You want to talk about antics.
Yeah.
Of course, it seemed to work for both of those guys.
They're winning, pretty much. This one is, and again, it'd be nice if you put your name on your text messages so we can identify you some way. Make up a name. Just make up a name. Just give us a name, but just make it up. Sports Talk starting to sound like Face the Nation on Sunday morning with all this crazy stuff going on in college athletics. Not complaining, but I love hearing you guys talk about what's happening on the field. Well, we do that.
I agree with you.
Yeah, we do that when it's pertinent. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could, but college athletics is not being played on the field anymore. It's being played in the boardroom and in the bank account.
That's where the big news is happening.
And the courtroom.
It's going to be like this until the House settlement is settled, which it isn't settled. And that's the other astonishing thing. For how many years, for how many months, I guess we should say, or maybe even longer than that, have we heard, okay, this House settlement is going to be signed off on, and then come July 1, we're going to have this new sort of a salary cap situation, and things are going to start falling in place. The judge hasn't approved the settlement, and she's not until they work out the roster arrangement. And they figure out, will there be roster limits, or are they going to bring back players who got cut, or exactly what? She doesn't want roster limitations, apparently. So this thing could fall apart. This whole settlement thing,
Yes.
This thing could fall apart.
And it goes back to what Fran the money coach, was telling us earlier this week, Phil, whether she wants roster limits or not, you start getting private equity firms that are managing these athletic departments, and they start seeing a situation where we're losing money. They may trim the fat, if you will, trim the fat on their own. It may be a situation we can't afford to have 125 guys on the football roster. You got to cut it back to 85.
Yeah.
We can't afford to have 15 on the men's basketball roster. We can only handle 10. So you got to go back to 10. And who are they going to listen to? I mean, it's run as a business, and if they're starting to trim the fat a little bit, if all this, from what Fran was telling us, comes to fruition, I have no reason to believe he was wrong, because I think he's 100% correct that everybody is ultimately going to end up looking like Kentucky is right now. We may be in courts for years.
Speaking of roster sizes, with Cam Scott coming back, that puts South Carolina at 14. So Lamont Paris has to be hoping they're going to take the rosters for basketball to 15, because he's got 14 right now. That's assuming Miles Studi is able to play.
Right.
So something else you have to think about as a coach is how many of these players are you going to sign and commit to over 13, because right now that's what it is until it's not. And what if they don't go to 15? Who are you going to say goodbye to? Who are you going to have to cut?
That'd be tough. And you're not doing it to Cam, since he wants to be back on the program. You're not going to cut him loose now. And back to the Ian Shefflin situation for a moment, too. If he does indeed go and try and be a part of the football program at Clemson, does that mean he's not going to pay attention to what happens in the NBA draft?
Apparently not.
I mean, what happens if he's a first-round select? I don't think he would be.
Yeah.
But what happens if he goes late first round, early second round?
He must have already gotten the word.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, he must have already gotten the word. Let's go to Tiger Bryan. Phone call here on Sports Talk. Phone number 888-898-2525. Welcome in, Tiger Bryan. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I was listening to it today, and I was thinking, I was reminiscing, baby. Back in the day, it'd be signing night, signing day, whatever. I'd listen to you. You was on there for what, about 8 or 10 hours? You know me?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, I'm talking about 30 years ago.
It was late. It was late at night. Not for 8 or 10 hours. We would do a 10 o'clock show.
Hey,
yeah.
It was. Hey, I would stay up. I don't give. I had to work the next day and run my heat and air business on the side. The next day, I dug in there. But you know what? You gave the truth. Yeah. You gave the truth, But
we tried to bring you the truth.
No, you done a great job, man. They didn't pay you enough back then. What you had to do
they
now,
didn't. I'm suing for back wages.
I ain't like, well, I need some NIL money my damn gum self.
I'm serious about that. Let me see. I got to figure out who my owners were back then.
That's where I go. He said, Brian, you talking about on Sports Talk.
I think it was Telesouth.
Waterloo State Park.
I'm going to go sue Telesouth down in Mississippi.
I was at Waterloo State Park down at Toe Creek side for 5 days. And two people I was talking to them, they said, you talking about promotion. Cornbrew and them love you. I said, no, I love them.
No.
They tell the truth.
So you have fans?
I love them. They tell the truth.
You ran across fans of yours in the state park?
Yeah, I've been at my tax office. My tax man, the guy sitting beside me, he said, he heard me talk to my wife. He said, you talking about promotion.
I'm telling you, you can't go anywhere. You can't run. You can't hide.
It's awesome. But you know what I tell them? Y'all do such a great job. That's the only reason I keep calling in and talking to y'all. But you know what? You talking about all that money. It don't. Hey, that money will get them to heaven. You know what I mean? All these athletes and all. I'd rather have a school. I ain't saying I'm a Clemson man. I know Dabo tries to do the right thing. Make men out of them. Conduct these people. If it's Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, whoever, make the kid. Make them good grown men to take care of their families. Instead of all that money. Money don't get you. I mean, I'm not. Hey, my clothes won't fool you because I got more you lose. You see me calling, you say he broke his tongue bit. Okay.
Never. Well, let me just.
No, I got Miss Tiger.
She gonna keep you straight. She gonna keep you straight.
Oh, she worked deep power four stock programs for 30 years.
Yeah.
Never got a business. Yeah, we good. But yeah, but I'm gonna tell you, that guy you talking about, the basketball player for Clemson, he's gonna play football. He's thinking he's gonna get a national championship run with the football team. You know what I mean?
Well, he can't. Yeah. He can't hurt him. And thank you, TB. Glad to have you back with us. I mean, Shefflin, he can't hurt him if he joins the football team. No. I think he'll be an assistant. I don't think. I mean, is he going to be a program type changer at tight end? Probably not. But I think he could be some kind of a help as a in depth and a blocker. Maybe put him back there at fullback. Let him have some fun if that's what he wants to do. I just want to say this, and I'm like you, and I'm like a lot of callers. I'm getting fatigued over all this business talk about the college world and everything that's going on, right? I'm getting fatigued by it. And I'm tired myself personally. I'm tired of feeling bad about it. I'm tired of feeling bad about it. And I'm trying to accept the way of the world and just go along with it. I just saw where Tennessee has sold out all of its season tickets for next season.
Right.
South Carolina,
70,000 too, which is remarkable.
South Carolina and Clemson are probably going to do the same thing. If you're winning, people are going to buy tickets. They don't really care how you accrue the talent as long as you're getting the talent. And if this is what college sports has evolved into now, and this is the way it's going to be, we just got to quit complaining about it. And I think a lot of people have. A lot of people have jumped on board and accepted it and are running with it. Those of us who've been around a little bit longer, probably a little slower to do that, but fighting within myself to get that done. And most days I'm there. Some days when I see some of the outlandish stuff, that's what knocks me back. Some of the crazy stuff that we see taking place in the marketplace, that's what knocks me back at the collegiate level. Did it people that cover Major League Baseball, did they get blown away by what Sosa got from the Mets? $760 million? No, because they've been covering that kind of stuff. They've been around that kind of stuff for decades. They just sort of take it in stride. Yeah, it's a big number. It was a big number when Mickey Mantle got $100,000 back in the 60s. I guess he was one of the first to get to that point. So it all depends on your experiences and what you're used to. And so the collegiate crowd, the crowd that's been following college football for 30, 40 years, that's why they've sort of had this reaction to all this taking place, because it's so unnatural to what we've seen for college sports over all these years. But they are forcing the judges, they are forcing the round peg into the square hole, or the square peg into the round hole, however you want to look at it. Square peg into the round hole.
Too.
With a sledgehammer, yeah. They're forcing that in there, and it's going to fit. It's going to go in. It's not going to fit well, but it's going to go in.
If we could rewind history and go back to the late 60s, early 70s, when Curt Flood started to challenge Major League Baseball and the trade and all that kind of stuff, and basically ushered in the era of free agency, and plop it down right now with the amount of social media coverage that you have on sports, would we be in the same scenario? I think the unknown is the biggest problem I've got with it, Phil. And I think you and I have adopted a situation, or at least adapted to, hey, kids are going to get paid, they're going to transfer. It's, that's fine. That's where we are now. But I think the lack of knowledge as to what's coming next, I mean, the fear that all these athletic departments are no longer going to have anything to do with the university except the kids practice on the properties that the universities uphold.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest problem I have, is just not knowing where this is going. And I wish somebody would at least give us a plan of attack that in 2 years we're going to be here. In 4 years we're going to be here. In a decade from now, all of this will be water under the bridge. But I don't see any plan that's going to keep this from running off the rails in a hurry.
Well, the hope was that the House settlement was going to give some sort of guardrails, but they haven't gotten there yet. They haven't finished that yet. So we're still sort of just treading water until that judge decides what she's going to do. Is she going to sign off on it eventually? Are the teams or the defendants going to give her what she wants in terms of how they're going to manage the rosters, or is she going to take this thing to trial? She could still take this thing to trial, which would tie everybody's hands up for who knows how long. All right, we got to run to the break, and we'll be back. Phone number 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery, lucky number for you here on Sports Talk. Tim Beret coming up after the top of the hour. We'll hear from Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich. George Bryan as well from the U.S. Open qualifier. Got a lot coming up. And, of course, a full dose of interesting recruiting information that we can give you coming up in a little bit. Don't go away.
Traveling can be the worst, especially when you can't find your favorite show. Well, don't worry. We've got the perfect way to keep up with everything happening in the Palmetto State when you're away from home. Just pull up the Chief Sports app on your mobile device, and you can listen live to Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network.
So the next time you can't find us on one of our great radio affiliates, just log on to the Chief Sports app, the best way to stay connected with the Sports Talk Media Network.
This is Major Billy Downer with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Boating season is here, and as you get ready to go out on the water this spring and summer, make sure you have all the required safety equipment on board. Check for a sound device. A horn or whistle will suffice for most boats. Inspect all of your life jackets. Make sure they're in good condition and are the correct size for all of your passengers. If your boat is over 16 feet, you will need to make sure you have an approved throwable device on board as well. Remember, boating safety is no accident.
One lottery ticket makes a big difference for our state students. And when I say big, I mean bigger than jackpot big. Since 2002, South Carolina students have benefited from more than $6 billion in lottery-funded scholarships and grants, including the Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow Scholarships. With every lottery play, you're supporting our students, and that adds up in a big way. That's why education is our middle name. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
All right, a few more minutes to go before the top of the hour. Got some more text messages to get to. Texting is the thing tonight, so give you what we got. This is from Eddie in Conway. Did you address the guy last night about not watching you? Check out your YouTube comments if you get a chance. He mentioned he won't listen because you put down South Carolina. And I responded to him by saying that you state facts and South Carolina baseball is not good at all this year. What's your take? Well, my take is you nailed the take. I mean, yeah they're just not very good this year. The part
at least
about
they're not Missouri. I mean, they could be Missouri.
Missouri still hasn't won an SEC game.
No. And I just saw this. The last time a team in the SEC went winless was 1962.
Wow.
And it was Vanderbilt of all teams.
Really?
So, yeah, it's been a long time to be as bad as Missouri is. And they've got Georgia, A&M, and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning any of their last 9 games in conference play.
What was I going to say? As far as the rest of the commentary there, hey, we want you to stay with us. We don't want you to ever turn away, but you also have that freedom to do so. If you don't like what you hear and you disagree, I mean, if you disagree, then you should contact us. That's the whole idea of the two-way sports talk show. Contact us, and we'll talk about it. You don't have to go off in a huff because you don't like, simply because we're not carrying the water for anybody, and we point out things that aren't good because they aren't good, and you have to talk about that. That's no reason to get bent out of shape about it, but that's okay. We can understand that.
I would actually like to hear somebody who thinks that way, Phil, and can give us a cogent argument as to why Carolina baseball is not as bad as what we're seeing.
Well, you can't.
I mean, I don't see any way you can spin it where they're just not a good baseball team.
I mean, I
that's
gave
the bottom
them
line.
I actually, this is where I think he's a little bit off because if you listened last week, I was actually one who was pumping a little sunshine.
Yeah.
They were coming off an SEC.
Yeah, it was me.
That was what?
I said it was me that was down on them, not you.
Oh, yeah. I was pumping a little sunshine. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, look, they'd won 4 out of 5. They'd won a series. They're going to Kentucky. They can play with Kentucky. And they split the first 2 games. Of course, they had a bad outing on Sunday, so they lose another series. So I still say they're not as bad as that record would tell you. They've been right there in a lot of games, but that doesn't get it done in baseball. That just doesn't get it done. Another text message. Josh has greatly improved the selection of bumper music.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That's well stated. That's going into the Text Hall of Fame for Sports Talk right there.
It's about time he did something.
Hey, just coming out with the doobies just a minute ago.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. You don't like when I play country music, though, right?
I would agree with that.
That's the.
Not a fan.
Is that your personal music list we're listening to?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I don't know, a little bit of everything.
Here we go. Need to cut that women's basketball money because it's losing money. No one cares except for the Lady Gamecock fans. Okay. I think you're probably in the minority there. And one more. Need a statue of Raven Johnson. Oh, her 2 points a game. Dave. He put his name on that. Dave. She averaged more than 2 points a game, didn't she? We'll be back.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Will the Supreme Court allow the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school in Oklahoma? That was the question before the justices today. Lori Walkie says religion should be kept out of public schools.
We are very hopeful that the Supreme Court will continue to uphold the foundation of this country, that the government cannot establish a religion and force our very vulnerable school children to be indoctrinated and coerced into a faith that is supposed to be invitational.
But Legacy Builders Academy founder Yolanda Chandler says the judicial system should not be deciding on publicly funding a religious charter school.
Let's be clear. When courts and policymakers start deciding whose values get funded and whose don't, we all lose. Because silencing faith-based schools today sets the precedence to silence any voices of tomorrow. The result is we silence the potential. And when we limit the potential of the God-given talents of each child, we all suffer.
Chief Justice John Roberts may be the deciding vote in the case. The U.S. and Ukraine announced on Wednesday an economic deal after a weeks-long press by President Donald Trump calling on Ukraine to compensate Washington for billions in military and economic assistance to help Ukraine repel the Russian invasion. Pakistan says it has credible intelligence that India is planning to attack it within days over last week's deadly attack in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Pakistan has vowed to respond very strongly. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 141 points, the Nasdaq dropped 15. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility. Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
Stocks went on another roller coaster ride with the Dow and S&P down for a large part of the day before recovering. We hear more on today's market activity from correspondent Seth Sutel reporting from New York City.
Stocks bounced back from an early loss and ended mixed on Wall Street, continuing their wild swings amid uncertainty about what President Donald Trump's trade war will do to the economy. The S&P 500 rose 0.1% Wednesday, extending its winning streak to a 7th day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 141 points, about 0.3%. The Nasdaq Composite slipped 0.1%. Indexes started the day lower after a report suggested the U.S. economy may have shrunk at the start of the year. The market rallied back after a report said inflation slowed in March. That could give the Federal Reserve more leeway to cut interest rates to support the economy. Seth Sutel, New York.
News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. The evening low dipping to 62. Tomorrow, much like today, a blend of sunshine and some clouds to go with a high temperature of 88. On Friday, we get more clouds than sunshine. A slight 20% chance we get some late afternoon storm activity. Look for more storms on Saturday, maybe even into early Sunday. Much nicer Sunday after lunchtime. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday night. Tim Beret joining us in just a second. Couple of quick things to take care of. Baseball this afternoon. Georgia Southern and College of Charleston are 1-1, bottom of the fourth. Winthrop, which scored 25 runs last night in beating Queens, leads Wofford 1-0 in the fourth. And Queens, which got beat 25-0 last night, is leading North Carolina 3-2 in the bottom of the third. That's third-ranked North Carolina losing to Queens 3-2 in the bottom of the third. NBA playoffs, of course, going on. Raise your hand if your team has moved on to the second round. Yes, indeed, we have. The Lakers and the Rockets are facing elimination tonight, and whether you think LeBron can dig deep and force a Game 6, or if you think it's Anthony Edwards' time to shine, you can put your opinions to the test by placing your entries at UnderdogFantasy.com. Higher or lower the 19.5 points for Jimmy Butler, 4.5 3-pointers for Anthony Edwards, and if LeBron James will post a double-double. Of course, Jimmy Butler's with the Warriors, so not involved in these particular games. Don't forget, you can also play fantasy with Major League Baseball, the PGA, NASCAR, and more. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com and register with your promo code SportsTalkBonus. That's SportsTalkBonus to claim your free pick and first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The only way to claim your free pick and bonus cash is by using that promo code SportsTalkBonus. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Well, considering J.J. Redick won't take him out of the game, and he's probably going to play 48 minutes tonight, I think LeBron probably gets a double-double.
He's going to come at him like a horse tonight. This is the kind of game with LeBron. He's like the bull out there with his head down and his feet moving, the ball in his hands. He's just going to go to the basket time and time again. You wait and see. It's going to be LeBron's night. Don't know if they're going to win, but he's going to leave it all out there. Okay.
Yeah. J.J. Redick needs to be introduced to the back end of his roster, the bench.
He seems to have forgotten that. But you know what? If you're going to go down, you're going to go down with your best.
Well, that's true. But, I mean, it's an older group, especially LeBron. I don't think he needs to be playing 45 minutes a game, does he?
Probably not. I mean, not in today's NBA. You do need to catch a breath every so often to have your legs in the last few minutes. All right, last night we told you about the newest selections for the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame, and one of those, Tim Beret, joining us now here on Sports Talk. Tim, of course, longtime sports information director at Clemson, but he's more than that. I think he's like the fabric of the Clemson athletic program with his involvement in so many different areas, so many different aspects of the program, and it's only fitting that he's going to go in to the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame. Tim, we welcome you. We congratulate you, man. So happy that Clemson is honoring you in this fashion. Congratulations to you.
Well, thanks very much, Phil, and I guess it's fitting that you are my first interview about going into the Hall of Fame because you and I go way back to the days when you were working for Bill Waggy.
Yep.
And which was, you really started these kind of sports talk radio shows. So we have a lot of fond memories, a lot of great games and things that we've both gone through.
A lot of phone calls at 5:30. Tim, anything going on?
Yeah.
Nope. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of phone calls.
I still
and some phone calls. Some phone calls too at 8:05 when I put out a release that just when you went off the air.
But I remember most of that number. It was 864-656-1926.
You got it. That was my direct line number. Now, when I started, I didn't have a direct line. It was 2114.
Yeah,
and that's ranked for the sports information office, and then you had a transfer call. But 1926 was embedded in your memory.
Absolutely. I dialed that thing. It was you, Kerry Tharp, call over to Hunter Reed at Furman, down to the guys at Citadel. Yeah, that was the way you communicated back then. What does it mean to you? I mean, you've had a bunch of honors in your career, obviously. But what does this particular one mean to you?
Well, it means a lot because I've been here for so long. I worked with a lot of great people, and there's so many people that are in the Clemson Hall of Fame that that I worked with or promoted, and whether it be the coaches or the student athletes. So it means a lot to be in the same hall with those people. So it's a great honor. The other Hall of Fame I'm in, of course, is the National Sports Information Hall of Fame, and that meant a lot to me also.
Yeah. So when you arrived from Notre Dame, when Bob Bradley hired you and you arrived from Notre Dame, of course, you had worked up at Notre Dame under some great people, and you come to Clemson, and what was your first impression of things? What was your first impression of Bob Bradley, the facilities, the things you're going to be doing? What did you think when you first got there?
Well, it was kind of an act of God that I ended up at Clemson. because I got a free shot to see what it was like before I interviewed. As you might remember, that Notre Dame came to Clemson in 1977 for their first ever meeting in football.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge game, 2 top 15 teams, and so I got to see Clemson football at its zenith with a rabid crowd. And I'll never forget the first time I came into Death Valley, riding in with the Notre Dame team. We took in those days you could drive the bus right practically next to the visiting locker room, and so you could drive in the stadium and you could see the hill. And so we got there at 11:15 for a 1 o'clock game. It was not on live television.
Huh.
And the hill was absolutely packed at 11:15. And Roger Valdesteri, my boss at Notre Dame, looked at me and he's like, "What are we doing here? Like, we're about to get ambushed." So, I had a great impression of Clemson from the get-go, from that time there, seeing how everybody was so into the athletic program.
Did you, in your interview with Mr. Bradley and whoever else you talked to, maybe it was Frank Howard or somebody else, did you have to really sell yourself, or was he pretty much ready to hire you when he first met you?
I had a pretty good resume, even though it was coming from being a graduate student. My graduate year at Notre Dame was the 77-78 academic year, and Notre Dame won the national championship in football and went to the Final Four in basketball. So I had some pretty good names of national media and the coaches, on my resume. So I think that certainly piqued Clemson's interest. And the timing also was perfect, that Clemson was coming off such a big year in football and basketball with the Tree Rollins era. So I think Clemson was kind of ready to hire an outsider who, might have had some experience, with the national media outlet. So I think that certainly helped me. So I, felt pretty confident when I was going through the process.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're up at Notre Dame and you're dealing with New York media and you're dealing with Chicago media and maybe some L.A. media, and now you're in Pickens County, South Carolina, and you're dealing with guys like us, and you're dealing with the Greenville News and the State and Spartanburg, etc. I mean, did it take you a little bit of adjusting yourself to kind of deal with the Southern style of covering sporting events and things that were important to Southerners?
No, I can't, say that it was that, big of a difference. I mean, your beat writers I thought the beat writers down here were very professional, and they were into, covering all aspects of your programs, which is what I was used to. The positive about, being at Notre Dame beforehand is I just kind of was aware of the magnitude of what you do. And where I'm coming from is, whether I look up some kind of statistic to promote somebody, if that's going to be in the New York Times, I better get it right.
Yeah.
And so I was, used to that, and I didn't say, I never said, it's only the Greenville News or it's only the Anderson Independent.
Yeah.
I was just used to having to really fact check and do things, the right way. And Mr. Valdesteri and Mr. Bradley were so, similar in the way they treated the media, the importance of the media, and, being right and only promoting something when it was legit. And so that's a lot of the things I was able to, carry with me from Notre Dame to Clemson.
Yeah, it was back in those days, I hate to use that phrase all the time. Makes it sound like we've been around for a long time. Back in those days, there was a certain relationship between people in your kind of office and the media. Obviously, things evolve over 4 decades, and I think, of course, you're removed from it now, but, there's certainly a difference. Would you agree with me? There's certainly a difference now in how athletic communications, they call it now, how athletic communications and the outside media deal with one another. It's not so much a helping hand to the outside media because athletic communications are kind of doing their own thing to cover their own teams, as I see it.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and that's the biggest difference. When I got my start at Clemson, or even for the first 25 years at Clemson, it was, if you wanted to get the word out or stories out about your team, your student athletes, promote your student athletes, you had to use outside media, and so that's the way it was done. And I remember when the score wouldn't get in the Greenville News, or a story didn't get in the Greenville News for soccer, let's say. Coach Ibrahim would call me up the next morning. Why wasn't the story in the Greenville News? Well, the game ended at 10:30, Coach, and it was beyond deadline. But today, I don't think the SID people in different sports get calls, because they can see the story was done and it's on your website, and a lot of people are getting their information that way. So, it is totally different. Really, sports information today is split in half, and it's really, you have the social media that you control, and you still have to, try to promote, through the outside media, which is especially important in your major sports. I mean, Ross Taylor does a great job dealing with the national media, the outside media. When promoting his team, the Tigers, but there's also a team of people who do all the social media that does all the kind of the self promotion of the product. There's kind of a separate team of that, so it is drastically different from what it was.
Sure is.
Clemson legend Tim Beret with us here tonight on Sports Talk. And Tim, I just wanted to go through relationships. Fascinate me, especially since your career spans so many years at Clemson. What was the biggest difference that you found over the years between Dabo Swinney and how he runs his program, say, versus what Danny Ford did when he was running the football program there?
Well, that when you say that, the first thing that pops into my mind is the common things that are between the two. The attention to detail is the first thing that comes to mind, whether it be Dabo or Coach Ford. One of my favorite stories about Coach Ford was at the end of the 1989 Clemson-Virginia Tech game, and Clemson had won the game, and the only score for Virginia Tech was on a kickoff return. They did nothing offensively. So Coach Ford goes to shake hands with Coach Beamer, who's only in like his second year, and he shakes his hand, and then Danny gets down on both knees, and he puts his palm on the ground and then puts his fingertips on the ground. And then he stands up, shakes his hands again, and walks off. I said, what in the world were you doing? What was that about? I thought he was praying to Coach Beamer. And Virginia Tech was not in the league then, and Coach Ford liked Coach Beamer, and so he was telling him that one of their offensive linemen tipped off our entire defense, that every time he had his palm on the hand before the snap, it was a running play, and every time he had his fingertips on the ground up, it was a pass play. So our defense knew whether it was a pass play or a running play on every play. So that was an example of just the attention to detail that Coach Ford paid to when he looked at film and video, and of course Dabo is very, very similar. Now, I will say maybe the difference is I don't know if when I retired, Coach Ford would have given me a golf cart with a Notre Dame and a Clemson logo on it. But, of course, Coach Sweeney did do that, which I'm very appreciative of.
Well, speaking of your connection with Notre Dame, obviously Phil and I both know how much you love that university, and you were there sort of in their heyday of basketball with Digger Phelps, and now you're, I guess, fair to say that you're in the heyday, or at least some of the good times with Clemson basketball. Any comparison to Digger Phelps with Brad Brownell?
Yeah, they're both as honest as can be, both very honest with their players, honest with the media. I think they call a spade, mm-hmm. and they both are in it for the student athletes, long-term success. Every player that stayed 4 years with Digger got his degree 53 for 53, and Brad's graduation rate and the way I see he cares about his players and the relationships he has with them is very similar. And it all boils down to your culture. And I think that was important in Digger's culture, and that was important, and that's been important in Brad Brownell's culture. And I think that's why, he's been so successful, and he has a sixth. I will say this: Digger never had a transfer. Notre Dame was not allowed to take transfers the whole time he was at Notre Dame, and of course that has really changed now. And Brad has had a lot of success for transfers, but he really has a sixth sense about guys that'll fit into his culture.
Speaking of Clemson basketball, I got to ask you, since you're on campus, and I know you've seen the story as we all have today, what kind of tight end do you think Ian Shefflin might make?
Well, that doesn't surprise. I mean, Dabo would talk to me about that privately, and of course, a couple press conferences. He mentioned that he was recruiting the Clemson basketball team for the portal, even back in the season. But I think I think Ian would be a terrific fit. He's just such a good all-around athlete. I mean, if he does anything else other than catch high lob passes in the end zone at 6'8", what cornerback is going to be able to stay with him on plays like that? And there is history of basketball players going on and being terrific tight ends in the NFL. Of course, I remember Antonio Gates played 4 years of basketball at Kent State, never played football, and he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Clemson-Pittsburgh basketball game we're at this year, they retired the number of, I can't remember his name now, but a guy played 4 years of basketball for Pittsburgh, and then he played 9 years in the NFL as a defensive end, and, of course, the young man who was at Miami a few years ago. So there is precedent for it. Now, of course, Ian hasn't played, I guess, since he was a sophomore in high school, but we know he's a good athlete, and, he's the type of guy that I think will be great for the locker room, too.
Sam Clancy is who you're talking about.
Sam Clancy. That's exactly right. He had his basketball number retired when we were up there this year.
Yeah. Google never forgets, like the rest of us.
There you go.
A couple more minutes with Tim Beret.
Jimmy Graham was the guy from Miami.
Jimmy Graham. Mm-hmm. Tim Beret going into the Clemson Athletic Hall of Fame. I mean, did you ever think that you'd go into something with the name Athletic? I know you're a great golfer, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you're going into the Athletic Hall of Fame with all those great athletes. Not that you weren't a great athlete at some point in time in your life, but I mean, did you ever envision this happening?
I'm actually, Phil, in an Athletic Hall of Fame. I am in the West Hartford, Connecticut Baseball Hall of Fame because I was on the only American Legion team in the history of my hometown to go to the American Legion World Series in 1973.
I did not know that.
Yes.
What position?
I was an outfielder. I was.
I did
I was
not know
all conference in Northwest Catholic and played on a great Legion team, and we went all the way to Lewiston, Idaho. Played in the same American Legion World Series in 1973 as Dale Murphy.
Wow. Did you meet him? Did you get his autograph back then?
Well, we didn't know he was going to be Dale Murphy at the time.
Yeah. Now, of course, you've had so many good times at Clemson over those 40-plus years. So much winning and championships and so much good. There were some dark times as well, of course, that you had to deal with. I'd be interested to know from you kind of what it was like during the 80s with the Ford years and the NCAA investigations and the probations and the firing of Danny and the Ken Hatfield arrival and all that uproar at Clemson. I know you did your best to handle your job through all that. What was that like for you, seeing that all unfold at a place that had been, pretty calm and collected during the Danny Ford years and until it wasn't?
Yeah, God works in mysterious ways, Phil, and he threw the greatest challenges at me in my professional career, probably the first year. And I was as the SID. I came to Clemson in 78. Bob Bradley retired in the summer of 89, and so I became the head SID. Bob retired on July the 1st in 1989, and 6 weeks later, Chris Mortensen came out with a story in the Atlanta Constitution that Clemson was under investigation by the NCAA. So that were certainly some trying times, and of course led to Coach Ford's departure in January of 1990, and I'll never forget, my day started the day of Ken Hatfield's press conference by by meeting with the university security, and they wanted to know where I thought we should have police officers stationed at the stadium for when we had to guard against the storming of the press conference. So that's fortunately that didn't happen. Thanks to Frank Howard, who calmed the waters outside the press box. But there was some group of angry fans certainly there. So my first 6 months were probably the most trying of my career.
Thrown into the fire. Last thing, we'll let you go. How did you enjoy hanging out with Frank Howard? Did you ever just go sit in his office and listen to him?
Yes, I did, and I got a lot of great Frank Howard stories that we don't have enough time to go into right now. But there was whenever I had something historical that I wanted to research, I would go down there and certainly spend some time with him. Probably the most time I spent with him is in 1989. Bino Cook came down to do a major feature for Game Day. In those days, Game Day didn't go on the road, but Bino Cook and Tim Brando were a part of it, and they would do long features. So he came down to do a story on Frank Howard and the kind of history of Clemson football. So certainly spent a lot of time with him organizing that and doing research for it with Bino. So I did get to spend a lot of time with him, and I just came away. He had this kind of persona of being the country bumpkin, so to speak, but he was a very sharp guy, very intelligent, and could really read the room and could really have a good sixth sense about what is going to happen. And probably the biggest example of that took place in 1960 when he was at the meeting when they proposed to have the 800 rule in the ACC. And he stood up in the meeting and said, I propose that we expand to 10 teams in the ACC. And everybody said, why in the world do we want to do that? He said, because if that way we'll only play each other and nobody will know how bad this league is going to be. And he was 100% right.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the records, Phil, I'm sure you have, in the decade of the 1960s, Clemson was 0-17-1 against SEC teams after having been the 15th winningest program in college football in the decade of the 1950s. And so he was really the only person in that room who knew that rule change was going to be devastating for the ACC.
Tim, we have enjoyed it, my man. Congratulations once again.
Indeed.
Have a great summer, you and the missus, and we'll see you soon somewhere down the road.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, I'll probably see you at the South Carolina Hall of Fame banquet on May 19th.
You certainly will, sir. Look forward to seeing you.
See you there. Thanks.
Take care, pal. All right, Tim Beret. They don't make them like Timothy anymore.
No.
The one and only. And we appreciate him being with us. Congratulations once again for that fantastic honor, and we'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. The evening low dipping to 62. Tomorrow, much like today, a blend of sunshine and some clouds to go with a high temperature of 88. On Friday, we get more clouds than sunshine. A slight 20% chance we get some late afternoon storm activity. Look for more storms on Saturday, maybe even into early Sunday. Much nicer Sunday after lunchtime. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman-Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat and Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat and Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Vote. With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The U.S. and Ukraine have announced an economic deal after a weeks-long press by President Donald Trump on Ukraine to compensate Washington for more billions in military and economic assistance to help Ukraine repel the Russian invasion. The announcement comes at a critical moment in the war as Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with leaders of Russia and Ukraine as the fighting drags on. Chief Justice John Roberts appears to hold the key vote over whether the Supreme Court will allow the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school in Oklahoma. Roberts was the only justice whose vote seemed in doubt after the court heard more than 2 hours of arguments Wednesday. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 141 points, the Nasdaq dropped 15. This is SRN News.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
Hey, it's Drew from ChimSpector. My job is to make sure your fireplace is working properly. At ChimSpector, we do annual inspections to ensure your home and family's safety. We also inspect and clean dryer vents inside your home. Are your clothes taking more than one cycle to dry? If so, it's time to get your dryer vent cleaned and inspected. This can save you big dollars on your power bill and increase the performance of your dryer. Let the ChimSpector team take a look online at chimspector.com or give us a call at 803-859-5858. That's 803-859-5858.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
I bet you've heard us say this, you can't pick your power company. So how can you control your power bill? By partnering with Ken and his local team at Broker Solar. Ken, our power is not getting any cheaper.
So every year there's typically a rate increase that happens, and the utilities claim that they want to keep up with their operating costs. Now, Broker Solar allows you to take control of that cost, own your power, create it, store it, and then use it when you need it. There's special solar financing that would take advantage of the tax credits. You can have several options on how long you'd like to pay off your solar system and how quick the return could be.
No two homes are the same, so you work with homeowners, business owners to fit their needs based on how many solar panels they need and even where they want the panels to go. Most folks prefer it on the roof, but some don't.
We frequently get asked about solar on the ground or even on a separate solar structure like a carport or a lean-to that comes off the house.
Call Broker Solar. Call them now, 803-807-7417 or online, brokersolar.com.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Okay, let's give you the recruiting report tonight. It is brought to you by our good friends over at Seawells as we roll through the week. Another great day of the daily luncheon buffet behind us, and another great day is ahead for us on Thursday. What do we have tomorrow there, Plumber?
Thursday is Southern Fried Chicken, as always, sliced beef brisket, and carved mojo pork loin, and there's also barbecue chicken.
What is, now, from your experience, what is mojo pork loin?
I know it's very seasoned, and maybe like a Mexican. I don't know. I'm not sure.
You sure it's not? You sure you're mispronouncing that? And it's like just give me mo.
I mean, possibly.
Give me mo.
It looks pretty good.
I'm sure it's good. And of course, a roast beef Friday with all the trimmings coming up on Friday, and of course the catering side of things from Seawells. Very best in the catering business for all your catering needs. You can just give them a phone call And they'll be happy to work with you at 803-771-7385. Online, it's SeawellsCateringSC.com. All right, to recruiting tonight, a little bit more on South Carolina's most recent take from the transfer portal. Defensive tackle Troy Pikes, 6'4", 285, native of Atlanta, played 2 seasons at Georgia Southern, redshirting his freshman season, then playing in 13 games last season and totaling 13 tackles. He also took officials to Georgia, Georgia Tech, and Ohio State before visiting USC last weekend. Travian Robertson and company, they just won him over with how they run their business. He told us that he liked how they were very straightforward guys. They feel like they can get his game to that next level. Of course, he has ambition of making the NFL. He likes the scheme and the fit. He thinks that's going to be a good fit for him and help him get to that next level of success at South Carolina. He's looking forward to playing in the SEC. He said he wanted to get to where he was playing against the best. And they see him as a guy that can play over nose or can also, of course, shift over and play other spots across the defensive line. He's finishing up his classes. He'll arrive at South Carolina in late May or early June and begin his work with the Gamecocks. Last night, South Carolina offered wide receiver Brady Marchese, 6'1", 185 of Cartersville, Georgia. He is committed to Georgia. Did so back in mid-March. And Jacksonville State transfer offensive tackle Will Osteen, who had considered taking a visit to South Carolina, he signed with North Carolina. Of course, South Carolina has on campus right now Nathan Hay, transfer offensive tackle from Incarnate Word. Why do I want to call it Immaculate Word? From Incarnate Word. He is in for his official visit with the Gamecocks after coming in last night. And that'll do it for recruiting here on a Wednesday night edition of Sports Talk. All right, this afternoon I had a chance to talk with Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich. Of course, the Tigers got swept at NC State last weekend. Asked him about that and basically what happened to you and your guys in Raleigh. Why the tough weekend?
Took 11 weeks to have a losing weekend, but NC State was the better team this past weekend. You know, we tell our guys it's the best team doesn't win, it's the team who plays the best, and NC State outplayed us literally in every facet. Outplayed us, outcoached us. They were just better, and it started early and it ended, with what turned out to be that their hitters just came out swinging in game one. We made some mental errors that were costly in a close game during the middle of the game in game two. And then we just failed to execute with runners in scoring position pretty much the whole weekend. So that was probably the biggest takeaway is just, finding ways to get them over, get them in. We were not good in those categories, did not create many run scoring opportunities. We actually didn't pitch that bad in games 2 and 3. I thought we did a good job of minimizing some free passes, but NC State earned it. They just hit. They've got a good lineup, and as well as I do, as well as anyone listening, that it's all about timing and when you catch teams, and we happen to catch NC State when they're in the middle of a heater, having won a bunch of games, and so it was their weekend and not ours, and we'll regroup and get ready for a very tough opponent with Florida State, like you said.
Well, you've been through this a lot over your career. Hard to guide a team through 56 games and have them at their best every game, every weekend. Could you sense anything going in that maybe your guys are going to be a tick or two off?
No, not really, because I thought we played really well against Georgia, who's, 2 days before we beat Georgia, the number 1 RPI team in the country and a top 5 opponent. And I thought we played very well. I thought that was, a very solid game from a performance standpoint. We pitched and defended at an elite level. We shut them out, and they've hit like 1,000 home runs on the season. And we got some really big timely hits, a bunch of 2-out RBIs or a couple of 2-out RBIs. And so I didn't really sense it. If anything, I thought we had a lot of opportunities to win the game in game 3 of the Louisville series a few days before. So I was a little curious about, after losing in extra innings against Louisville, how we would respond to Georgia. But I thought we responded very well. But, coming out against NC State, they just did it. It was their weekend and not ours. And it was just one of those things.
How do you think your guys have responded in practice this week?
Well, we're in the middle of finals. So yesterday we had our first team meeting since playing at NC State. So we gave them off on Sunday, off on Monday, had a very short session yesterday. We actually got out into the Clemson community, handed out some gift cards and tried to pour into some other people, get the target off of us and us feeling bad and actually make other people feel good. And I thought that worked. So tonight will actually be our first training session of actually doing baseball stuff and competing and training at a high level. So we'll see. We'll find out here in about 45 minutes. But I think our guys will respond very well. I feel like their kids are resilient, much more resilient than coaches. It seems like, coaches dwell on all the mistakes and our, Monday morning quarterback even more than the fans do. And I think our kids are going to be all smiles and up for the challenge of Florida State. They know they've got a great opponent, and I think they're looking forward to getting up off the mat. And they've had it drilled into their head that it's good to have adversity, and we frame that stress as it's a good thing because it's an opportunity to learn and get better and grow. And nobody goes wire to wire, like you alluded to earlier. You need to have some struggles along the way in order to become a better team.
Any concerns about Canuck, considering his last outing? And as I recall, I think last year, kind of late in the year, you guys gave him a little bit of a break because of maybe you were concerned about a tired arm. Any concerns like that about him at this time?
No, last year was it was the most workload he'd ever had in his life because it was his true freshman season. So, it's tough sometimes for high school kids to go from their high school season to a college season that's like ours. It's a lot to ask a true freshman to be a weekend starter and go that many weeks in a row at a high level. But Aiden he is as good as it gets from a mental game standpoint, and I would expect him to bounce back in a major way. And, part of it is just tip of the cap to NC State. They hit his stuff, but I think he'll be dialed in and have his best stuff this weekend for sure.
You still go with Titsworth on game 2 and then TBA game 3, or anything else you're looking at those two starting spots?
We've got two really good back-end guys in Malstead and Garris. And Garris was unavailable this past weekend because he threw 2 innings against Georgia. In order to beat Georgia, we had to do it. So it ended up being an expensive win. He was a little tight and sore over the weekend, but kind of how we look at doing the weekend rotation is we listed as TBA, and if Reed Garris and Lucas Malstead are available on game 3, then BJ would start, and if they're not, because we needed to use them in order to win games 1 and 2, then we may use an opener like we did with Louisville, and whoever a good candidate would be that can go maybe once through the order and then go to BJ. But we got some flexibility there because BJ has the ability to come in, really at any point in the game. He's turned out to be a very valuable pitcher, but he's definitely the guy we want to use in game 3.
You look at your stats in ACC games so far, you're hitting about 260, and are you a little bit concerned about offense in league games with the league tournament coming up? And just maybe finding a little more offense over these last few weekends of the regular season. Do you think it's there?
Yeah, it's definitely there. Am I concerned? No. Do I believe that we have good hitters? Of course. Do I think we've hit to our potential? No, not anywhere near it, actually, which gives me great optimism that we're just saving our hot streak offensively here for the end, Phil. I think that's what we're doing. I'm not even thinking about the ACC tournament, especially a single elimination tournament where everybody goes. I'm totally focused on, next game, Florida State. We've got, and then all the conference games. We're very much in the thick of the race of the ACC regular season championship. Currently sitting, 2 games out of first and in 5th place overall. But, going into NC State, we're right there at the top of the standings. So I look at it more as we got to get back into that race for a championship of the regular season. That's what's ahead, and that always can be reduced down to whatever we're doing today, whatever we're doing this training session, and this pitch, and just trying to win pitches. But we're still very much in the thick of it, and I know there's other teams that are maybe in the middle, bottom of the standings that have to think about the ACC tournament and winning that. But we still have all of our goals in front of us, and the next big goal would be playing well enough each game in the ACC conference play to compete for a championship outright.
Well, you got some tough games to finish up here with 3 at Florida State, and then you go to Conway, and then you're back home for 3 against Duke. So tough competition there. What about Florida State? Certainly they've emerged this year as a national power and an ACC threat once again. What do you like about this Seminole team, and what things do you guys have to be concerned about in dealing with them this weekend?
And you knew it wouldn't take Coach Jarrett very long. He's a established, well-renowned, highly revered coach that, has won everywhere he's been and took Notre Dame to Omaha as well. So you knew it wouldn't take him very long to take Florida State back. And they've got one of the best pitchers in the draft class in Jamie Arnold, who has a chance to be the number 1 overall pick, or certainly in the top 10 picks. But very, very tough left-hander, All-American caliber talent. And then a team that just knows how to win, and they can kind of do everything. So we will, without question, have our work cut out for us for what is an outstanding pitching staff, a great lineup, and a very well-coached team.
Any injuries for you to be concerned about going into this weekend?
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got some guys, some bumps and bruises and nicks and scrapes, and so we're monitoring all of those. But it's one of those things where whoever has to be out temporarily, we've kind of dealt with it all year. In fact, I mean, there's been periods throughout the year where we've had guys out and kind of going in and out of whether it be the pitching staff or the lineup. And it's just one of those things where, the next guy up has to step up and has to jump in and try to add as much value as he possibly can. And we'll need that this weekend, and we'll need that in the weeks to come.
All right, there you go. Eric Bakich, Clemson baseball coach. Tigers got 3 at Florida State. Then they go to Coastal Carolina. Then they got 3 against a pretty good Duke team, and then 3 against a pretty bad Pitt team. You got their work ahead of them, Bergie.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked him about Canuck. I liked his answer. He feels like he's a lot more capable of handling this situation this year than he was last year. And we forgot the one nice thing about ACC expansion: no more pool play at the ACC baseball tournament.
This is true. Single elimination, just like the SEC. All right, we got George coming up.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your rec case or any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett, or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. all backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
4. Straight down the middle. It went straight down the middle. Then it started to hook just a wee bit. And that's when my caddy lost sight of it. That little white pellet has never been found.
All right, little special edition early this week. Birdies, bogeys, and biceps. This is the 9-hole edition. On Friday nights, we go 18. Sometimes we do 36. This is the 9-hole because a special event today out at Salina. And that is qualifying for the U.S. Open. George Bryan III joining us here on Sports Talk. First of all, congratulations to you and the entire organization. You guys had the Southern Conference Women's Tournament out there. Now you've got the U.S. Open qualifier. I mean, the word about Salina's getting around, and people are recognizing it for what it is.
Well, it's quite a group that started it, and Patrick Reese is the superintendent. Troy Thrall is, I just call him the general because he gets everything done. Greg Middleton is the proprietor. With George and Wesley, they are, I'll call them, they're loud. They're loud in the support, and it's a team that's pretty special. Something brand new to golf, and it's getting however you want to put it, it's getting a lot of publicity because it started with social media and YouTube, and that's the momentum that got it going. But at the backside of it, I call it the foundation. The young men I've already mentioned, they're all young and extremely enthusiastic about golf and really good at what they do. All of them, it's a very unique team for the industry of golf, and it's very entertaining. And the golf course was set up USGA tough.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness!
Ooh.
Goodness, the greens were fast. The conditions were fair, but as tough gets. Frankie Harris, USC Gamecock. I think he's had at least 3 SEC Player of the Weeks this season, probably more. But he with Keller Harper, they were medalists. G4, that's George Bryan IV. He and John Fahey were 1 under 69. And then Nathan Franks won a 1-for-7 playoff. Evans Lewis got the alternate spot. And phenomenal golf. The conditions, like I said, USGA tough. And it was a good crowd, good folk. A lot of folks came out to watch.
So how many people advanced? 7 advanced from this? 5 advanced. 5 advanced. Okay. So run those down once again so we can have the roster of the 5 from Columbia who are advancing. Give us those one more time.
Nathan Franks won the playoff. I'm going to start with this. He shot 70, won a 7-player playoff. He's a USC senior.
Gotcha.
John Fahey, 1 under 69. He's from Charlotte. G4 from Aiken, 1 under 69. He's Keller Harper, 2 under 68. And Frankie Harris, another USC Gamecock, -2. So 3 out of the 5 were Gamecocks or former Gamecocks.
Where do they go from here?
Different locations across the country. They call them sectional sites.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked George where he's going, he said, "Dad, I'm pretty excited. I actually forgot what I decided to put down." And but it doesn't matter. I mean, wherever they go, you've got to play great at the next level, and that we'll have several others locally, including Wesley got exempt into the sectional level, and quite frankly, he doesn't know where he's going either.
So, I was going to ask you about him. So you don't, if you're at a certain level, you can skip the local qualifying and go directly to sectional.
Well, if you're a PGA Tour member, they have offered the tour ones with tour cards. And even though he's suspended, he does have earn that privilege, and he will advance to that next level. So, but that next level is absolutely the toughest grade to make, and you don't get by there unless you are just flawless. So, but each of these players that made it today, they're all legitimate and have a chance to be playing at the 2025 U.S. Open.
All right, now let me ask you this. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry I overslept and missed my tee time, and so I DQ'd. But what does what are the qualifications just for getting into a local qualifying? I mean, you just can't drive up in your Volkswagen Beetle and pull out your clubs and start playing.
No, you do have to have a handicap, the USGA. I can't remember what it is. It's basically you got to have a 0 handicap, and that's it. Then you just register.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually 3 rounds. This round is 18 holes. The sectional level is 2 18-hole rounds, and typically they will do that in one day, 36 holes in one day. So that next one's exciting too. I got to make that trip wherever the boys go. I hope they go to the same one. I got a feeling they're not, so I have to choose.
And that's like, if I'm not mistaken, aren't the sectionals like a week or maybe 2 weeks before the Open? It's pretty close to the Open.
Yes, sir. It will be about 8-9. It's the week before the tournament starts, and typically it's about 9 or 10 days before the event. Anywhere from 9 to about 14 days before the first round. So, and what typically right after the Memorial, the day after the Memorial is when they are conducted. So it'll be the Memorial, a week, another tour event, and then the U.S. Open. And that Monday after, that is just a huge day in golf. One of the most exciting days in golf the last few years. It kind of reminds me of draft day, baseball, basketball, football, all that stuff. There's a lot of excitement around it. I know I enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, Sir George. This was just the 9 holes. We'll make the turn and tee it up with you on Friday night.
That'll be with Jeff Hull, the Furman women's coach champion. SoCon champion, and we'll have him on as a guest. So until then, Tim Hobbit, shoot 'em low.
Thank you, George. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you, sir. By the way, I want to mention, too, that Upstate is in the NCAA men's golf tournament as well. Upstate is going to be going to the Auburn Regional to play in that regional. So we got a number of teams from our state participating in the NCAA tournament. Quick look at the baseball scoreboard. Charleston 73 over Georgia Southern. Wofford Winthrop 1-1. Bergie, have a great vacation, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Going to miss you guys, but we will enjoy. I'll send you pictures back, and we'll see you a week from Monday.
You be safe. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Plummer. We'll see y'all tomorrow night.